Monday, January 24th, 1944. Dear Kitty, something has happened to me, or rather, I can hardly describe it as an event, except that I think it is pretty crazy. Whenever anyone used to speak of sexual problems at home or at school, it was something either mysterious or revolting. Words which had any bearing on the subject were whispered, and often, if someone didn't understand, he was laughed at. It struck me as very odd, and I thought, why are people so secretive and tiresome when they talk about these things? But as I don't think that I could change things, I kept my mouth shut as much as possible, or sometimes asked girlfriends for information. When I had learned quite a lot and had also spoken about it with my parents, Mummy said one day, Anne, let me give you some good advice. Never speak about this subject to boys, and don't reply it if they begin about it. I remember exactly what my answer was. I said, no, of course not. The very idea, and there it remained. When we first came here, Daddy often told me about things that I would really have preferred to hear from Mummy, and I found out from the rest of the books and things I picked up from conversations. Peter Van Dam was never as tiresome over this as boys in school, once or twice, or first perhaps, but he never tried to get me talking. Mrs. Van Dam told us that she had never talked about these things to Peter, and for all she neither had her husband. Apparently, she didn't even know how much he knew. Yesterday, when Margot, Peter, and I were peeling potatoes, somehow the conversation turned to Bochi. We still don't know what sex Bochi is, do we? I asked. Yes, certainly, Peter answered. He's a tom. I began to laugh. A tomcat that's expecting. That's marvelous. Peter and Margot laughed too over the silly mistake. You see, 2 months ago, Peter had stated that Bochi would soon be having a family. Her tummy was growing visibly. However, the fatness appeared to come from many stolen bones because the children didn't seem to grow fast, let alone make their appearance. Peter just had to defend himself. No, he said, you can go with me yourself to look at him. Once when I was playing around with him, I noticed quite clearly that he's a Tom. I couldn't control my curiosity and went with him to the warehouse. Bochi, however, was not receiving visitors and was nowhere to be seen. We waited for a while, began to get cold, and went upstairs again. Later in the afternoon, I heard Peter go downstairs for the second time. I mustered up all the courage to walk through the silent house alone and reach the warehouse. Bochi stood on the packing table playing with Peter, who had just put him on the scales to weigh him. Hello, do you want to see him? He didn't make any lengthy preparations, but picked up the animal, turned him over on his back, deftly held his head and paws together, and the lesson began. These are the male organs. These are just a few stray hairs, and this is his bottom. The cat did another half turn and was standing on his white socks once more. If any other boy had shown me the male organs, I would never have looked at him again. But Peter went on talking quite normally on what is otherwise such a painful subject, without meaning anything unpleasant, and finally put me sufficiently at ease for me to be normal too. We played with Bochi, amusing ourselves, chatting together, and then sauntered through the large warehouse towards the door. Usually, when I want to know something, I find it out in some book or other, don't you? I asked. Why on earth? I just ask upstairs. My father knows more than me and has had more experience in such things. We were already on stairs, so I kept my mouth shut after that. Things may alter, as Brett Rabbit said. Yes, really, I shouldn't have discussed these things in such a normal way with the girl. I know too definitely that Mommy didn't mean it that way when she warned me not to discuss the subject with boys. I wasn't quite my usual self for the rest of the day, though, in spite of everything. When I thought over our talk, it seemed rather odd, but at least I'm wiser about one thing, that there really are young people, and of the opposite sex too, who can discuss these things naturally without making fun of them. I wonder if Peter really does ask his parents much. Would we honestly behave with them as did with me yesterday? Ah, what would I know about it? So that was an interesting little story about Anne and Peter determining the sex of the cat Mochi, and I like how the cats are character in there, and there's two cats in her diary that she also talks about. This is the Diary of Anne Frank. It's a great piece of a great piece of world literature, and nonfiction, a great piece of nonfiction. And if you enjoyed my reading, click the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, and thank you for watching.